This is the World Satsanga, the 26th of the 1st, 2013. So first of all, I want to thank all of you who've given me wonderful words of encouragement and wonderful words of thoughts and condolences for Anne. Anne, of course, ascended on the 24th of December 2012, and actually since then I've had a number of communications with her from a channeled perspective. She's enjoying herself in the energetic. In fact, it's quite strange because one of the first things I picked up with her was she was on the edge of the boundary of her frequencies. In fact, she was right on the edge of the boundary of the source entity and doing gambols and gymnastics and all sorts of stuff that would have been indicative of her being free. In fact, she was completely and utterly delighted with the total freedom that she got from being apart from the physical form. So, and I've had plenty of communications with her since. So I'm totally and utterly what's the word for it? Delighted in the communication I've had from her in her post-demise condition. So for those of you who've sent me condolences and nice words, thank you very much. However, I've had lots of experiences that tell me that Annie's with us on a regular basis, helping out, working behind the scenes from an energetic perspective to make sure that what we're doing now is going to continue and is kept on the same level of importance that we feel it is here, but on the level that she's working on. So thank you all for that. Okay, so now we've got Skype settling down a little bit. Okay, what I want to do is just basically introduce Matthias to you all. Matthias attended the Level 1, Level 2 workshop in November in Birmingham, well actually South Birmingham last year in November. And Matthias, if you could you say a few words about about your experience from a spiritual perspective and your experiences and what you and basically the direction that you're going into?
Well, first of all, I'm very glad to be part of this group. It's nice to be here. Well, I started, as far as I remember, meditating very young, and then let's say about 7 years ago I went to my first healing class, and I'm doing healing since then. First started just with etheric healing, and it somehow wasn't enough. And then about 4 years ago I went on to regressions and meditations, and I'm meditating since then every day. And then Pat drove me to Dolores Cannon and her technique, which I'm doing now. And there I saw your work and was attracted immediately. And I said, this is something I need to go. And since November, things are moving very fast. I'm progressing very well. I got my own practice for healing, so this is now also almost full job for me. So I'm enjoying it very much, and things happen on daily basis a lot, and I'm very grateful to all you gave us all. So this should be in very short what I do.
It sounds like you've progressed an awful lot there, Matthias, and to be honest, I think that it's wonderful that you've been able to take the work that you believe in into your full-time work, and that it's become part of your everyday existence, which is excellent. There's nothing that anybody can wish for most than to take that which they have a passion for into their everyday existence. So I am absolutely delighted for you in that perspective. So well done there, Matches, well done. And
Thank you.
thank you for sharing your short history with us there from that perspective. Okay. So what I want to do now is to move on to the agenda of that which we are working with, and let's very quickly get back into my. I wanted to talk about attachment, because attachment is quite an in-depth subject. So from a human sense, attachment can be to another person, or it can be from the need to be in the presence of another person, or a presence of a thing, such as a house or a car, for instance, or clothes or whatever. But it can also be attachment to a number of thought processes. But let me just talk about attachment to other people right now, because attachment to other people also gives us an attachment to lower frequencies associated with karma. Now, anything associated with low frequency is karma. Karma is very, very insidious, convoluted, misunderstood, and it permeates everything that we do when we're in the physical environment. So when we interact with anything that we do, we can potentially be attached to it, and through this particular aspect of karma can create low frequency attachment, which is karma. So, for instance, attachment in a human sense is that attachment to another person, and it is also a very effective way to remain in low frequency existence as a perspective of that. In this instance, attachment is not love, but the need to be near with or within the presence of an individual or an individual's physicality. So, for instance, if we, using the English words, if we fancy somebody or we have a desire to be sexually related to somebody or related to somebody from any sort of perspective, we form this attachment to them, and that brings us down to the physical perspective. So attachment is therefore a form of materialism, but because it is relative to the need for personal presence, it is not easily recognised as such, so it's quite insidious from that perspective. So attachment focuses or affects both the initiator of the attachment and the focus of the attachment as a result of the energetic link between the two. So even though you've got one individual who's got the attachment to another, in terms of the need to be close to somebody or be with somebody, the individual who's the focus of that intention is also affected by that link, that energetic link. So the karmic link between the two is fixed. So if we are besotted by an individual, for instance, we can affect the individual's ability to move out of the low frequencies because of the link we have with them. In effect, we anchor them to the physical by our intention to be with them in a physical perspective, which is actually very difficult for us, to a spiritual individual who are trying to seek the greater reality, to understand, because actually our intention to be with somebody causes them to be lower frequency than they may well want to be. Okay. So keeping the initiator and the focus linked to the frequency associated with the physicality, which is a karmic function, retards the ability for both the initiator and the focus to ascend the frequencies, creating this karmic cycle. So clearly one creates attachments to loved ones during the incarnate period. But one shouldn't hold on to them, for instance, by remaining attached when they're in the presence or the process of finishing their incarnation. And this is a clear example of when people are finishing their lives. They're within days or weeks or hours of leaving their bodies. For this holds both of them in the lower frequencies. So when we plan our exit from the physical in a way that maximises our experiential and subsequent evolutionary opportunity within a known incarnate time frame, we have to make sure that we stick to that plan. But unfortunately, this may not be to the liking of the one who's initiated or created the attachment process or created this energetic link, because as being the one who's left behind in this particular instance, it's difficult for us to disassociate ourselves from the higher aspect of the reason why the individual who's leaving the physical is in fact leaving the physical. So we start to think to ourselves as being disenfranchised. They've left us behind. They've for instance, moved away from a deal that we've had, if we ever had one, in the physical, not specifically the energetic. But in essence, it's all about what we've established and what we've worked with in the energetic before we become incarnate. So we must accept the exit method as a pre-chosen exit method, and respect it and honour it, sending them true, non-attached love, being cognizant of the knowledge that in not having or actively removed attachment, we're helping them evolve, and that's not holding them back from the low frequencies of the physical, as an example. So really, when we attach ourselves to something or something, we have to think about the fact that actually we're retarding their progression upwards, which is a difficult thing to think about when we're thinking about our own condition. Does anybody have any questions on that? Because it's actually quite a convoluted thought process to go around.
Yes, Guy.
Hi, Chris.
What about long-term friendships? Buddies and all that. And women friends. Is that the same?
Well, this is basically what I'm talking about. Is that if we live for being within their presence, then we create a link with them. So when they move on, when they pass away, when they move upwards into the different frequencies, that link remains with them, and we hold them back because we have a desire for them or an intention for them to be with us at all time. Now, when we have that intention is a really strong energetic link, energetic program, energetic response to act to. So in essence, we hold them back. We keep them in the lower frequencies associated with the physical universe. So we're holding them back by having that level of intention or attachment to them being here. And it's something that a lot of individuals don't recognise, but actually our, shall I say, grieving for those individuals to be with us all the time when they've left us doesn't help them in the slightest. In fact, it inhibits them big time. And that's something we have to be cognizant of when we are in the process of being attached to an individual, and that they decide or they have a process which comes into the current event space or time period where they need to move onwards and upwards in the frequencies, i.e. they leave their physical body behind.
Okay, so it's just best to have associates.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Because basically this is quite, shall I say, relationship centric from this perspective, and although the attachments can be towards animals as well, of which we would have the same energetic response by holding them back, we can also have the same attachment to, shall I say, static physicality. Things like houses, cars, clothes, areas that we like to be within. Because when we ascend, or when we leave our physical body, if we maintain these attachments, we can hold ourselves back by providing an anchor to these specific areas of physicality. It's almost like we don't want to leave the physical aspect of that which we've experienced for the last X number of years. Yeah. Does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns, worries? Because this is quite an in-depth piece of information. This is, although I've summarised it quite a lot.
I have a question.
Okay. So, who's first, Marnie or Alan?
Go ahead, Alan.
Okay, Alan.
Okay, I'm wondering if attachment is particular to this third density. I've always thought that it was, that as you go into the higher frequencies, you have more of a balance and more of a completion within yourself, so there's no need to try to reach out and hold on to something. Is this particular to our third dimensional existence?
Yes, it is, because actually in this particular condition we have, shall I say, no or virtually no experience of that which is part of our greater reality. So we are very low frequency centric. We are focused on low frequencies, and as a result we don't really understand the greater reality. So everything we do is based upon that which we experience when we are part of this particular level of physicality, or this particular, shall I say, frequency level. When we're above this frequency level, we have access to much more experience and knowledge, and therefore we understand very much so the aspect of existence in that higher frequency, above that higher frequency, and what we experience when we are below that frequency. So an individual who is disincarnate will recognise all of the pitfalls of being incarnate when they're disincarnate. But whilst we're incarnate, unless we're extremely lucky to be allowed to have access to that level of shall I say, cognizance or communicative ability to contact the greater reality, we will think that this is all there is, and that we will only work upon this. But we may have, if we're lucky or if we're quite spiritually inclined, shall I say, either belief systems or profiles or certain levels of transient proof that will give us a little bit more knowledge than the average individual. Does that help? Does that answer the question, Alan, at all?
Yes, Guy, thank you. And one quick comment. I think it was Chris who was talking about attachment to our friends and what's the difference. I remember a very beautiful thing that Yogananda said. He said, "When we are apart, I do not miss you, and when we are together, I never tire of looking at your face."
That's because in Yogananda's position, he was aware of the spiritual-physical divide. He was always in contact with individuals when he was apart from them energetically. When he was in contact with them physically, he appreciated the physicality. He appreciated the physical contact and the fact that they were there as energetic beings, but in a physical guise. So he understood that. He understood both relationships. He understood that actually, even though we're not sometimes together physically, that we're all interconnected, and there is no difference in our level of distance or location, because we're all one and the same all at the same time.
Guy, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie.
Yeah, thanks. My question is about attachment to ways of thinking and being, and how that's interconnected to karma. I guess my specific thought is that is it karmic until you understand that you're attaching yourself to an old way of solving quote unquote problem, and is it through understanding this attachment that you relieve yourself from those karmic returns?
That's an excellent synopsis, and one thing I will say is that you only detach yourself, or one only detaches oneself from the karmic influence, not when one understands it, but one experientially realizes it. Intellectually understanding and experientially recognition are two entirely different things. We can experience things and know them from that experience, and get a greater understanding as a result, far in excess of that which we believe we have when we intellectualize things and try to work things out from an intellectual perspective or an academic perspective. The difference is, for instance, being with somebody who's in an accident and has their leg broken, being with them all the time from their having the accident to being transported in the ambulance to the hospital, to going to the hospital, to being analysed, being x-rayed, being put under sedation, having the bone repaired, the skin broken, the bone repaired in whatever way with pins or nails or whatever. Watching them come out the other side, seeing them going through the physiotherapy, seeing them having the pins taken out and then recovering again to full functionality. There's a difference between being the person who's experiencing that and being the person who's watching it. The person who's experiencing it is the one who's totally understanding the process of what they're going through. Being the person watching it is understanding it from a spectator's point of view rather than an experiential point of view. So, in essence, when one intellectualizes that which is presented to them, they may understand to a certain level, but they won't understand the full extent of that which they're being presented with. It's only when one is experientially experiencing it and working with it and moving on with it, then the full lesson and the full evolutionary contents associated with that lesson and experience is experienced and accrued. Does that help at all there, Marnie?
Sorry, couldn't find my mic button. Yeah, yes, and gives me more to think about as always. Thank you.
Yeah, very, very quickly to summarise, when one experiences something, one will understand more than one who watches the one who's experiencing it. The one who's experiencing it knows what's going on and what they're experiencing. The one who's watching it can only think that they know what's going on, based upon what they think that they would experience themselves if they're in the same position. And it's two completely different things. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on that before we move on to a bit more on ascension? Fantastic. Okay. Well, let me just talk about ascension next, because ascensions, I was thinking about this today before I dialed in, and an ascension is initially multifunctional and is manifold. Let me just think about it in terms of the individual's ascension in the first process. Ascension from an incarnate perspective is twofold. We have the individual's ability to ascend through being incarnate, and we have the collective's ability to ascend through being incarnate. And that is both of those are twofold in their own right. The first one, in terms of the individual, is based upon the soul or the spirit or the energy aspect, energetic aspect of ourselves that is associated with the physical body, ascending as a result of the evolutionary content accrued by experiencing certain experiences and working with those experiences and moving on with those experiences, learning the lessons or not, as the case may be, understanding that certain lessons are being experienced many times because the first experience wasn't understood, or even the second or the third wasn't understood and worked with, and therefore that individual is not moving on. And also from a physical perspective, whilst incarnate, one understands or experiences various different levels of frequential experience as a result of moving upwards to the frequencies. So, in essence, as the soul or spirit, we progress frequentially, we ascend frequentially because of how we interact with the experiences that are put before us whilst we're incarnate. And depending upon how we react to those, whether we learn our lessons first, second or third, depends upon how fast we evolve in the process. We also have the aspect of the physicality of ourselves, which is associated with the ascension process, because we do experience ascension whilst we are incarnate. And that means that if we are ascending frequentially, because we are learning our lessons, we are working with that which is presented to us, and we're moving onwards and we're helping others, we're being of service, then we start to become, shall I say, able to experience the higher frequencies that are there anyway, and therefore the higher levels of functionality that are available to us when we tune into them. So we start to enable the physical form factor to ascend as well. So the base frequency of the physical form factor increases in frequency as a result of our ability to understand and work with those lessons that are given to us with different experiences. So we as individuals evolve, or so to say, ascend frequentially as our energetic selves, but we also allow our physical vehicle to ascend frequentially at the same time. Now, from the group perspective, or the total perspective, that happens as well. So if we work with individuals in a group who are also of like mind and like thought process and like action, and want to be of service, then if we're all working together in some way, shape or form, and we're all linking together, then through triangulation, whether it's direct line triangulation, area field triangulation, or just triangular point triangulation, then we will accelerate our group and subsequently individual evolutionary content as a result. And that means that our group frequency, our base group frequency increases, and therefore our individual frequency increases. And on top of that, the group frequency of the physical form also increases, and the individual aspect of the frequency of our physical vehicle increases as well. So we start to create a number of different methodologies of ascending based upon how we work with that which is presented to us, and whether or not we get attracted to the lower frequency response of that which is attracted to us, rather than seeing the higher frequency response. So for instance, very, very bluntly, if somebody for no reason at all walked past us in the street and punched us in the face, if we responded back with an equally aggressive response, then we would have been instantaneously sucked down to the lower level frequency aspect of that individual who delivered the first blow in the first place. If, however, we adopted the, shall I say, typically Jesus response, where you offer the other cheek, then we jump up a level. And we don't get involved with that lower frequency response, but we start to say to ourselves, there must be a need for this individual to work off this frustration or whatever they're feeling, and therefore they, through our being of service, i.e. by offering over the cheek, can remove more of that frustration should they strike us again. And there's other variations upon that theme as well. So that is another way of understanding the level of ascension. When we look at total ascension, and of course this figure of the 21st of December 2012, we start to realise that there needs to be an awful lot of understanding about this, because in this instance there is both personal ascension and group or total ascension that is happening on a regular, gradual and robust basis. So when we think about how we ascend, we're moving up through the frequencies based upon that which we experience, that which we learn, and how we act and react and progress from that which we are exposed to, both individually and from a group perspective. And that means that when we continue to work in a, shall I say, positive methodology of responding to, shall I say, lower frequency stimuli, and we are given the ability to rise above that lower frequency stimuli, that being, in the previous instance, being the person in the street suddenly punching into the face, we accept it and we offer it the cheek, then we start to show that there's a higher aspect involved. So the opportunity to ascend is there all of the time. Now, if we were to put a date on these things, well, all we're doing is putting an expectation on. Unless everybody is operating on the same level of interaction with others, the same level of service, the same level of understanding, the same evolutionary path, we're not going to get the ability to be able to jump up massive levels of frequential levels based upon all of the supposedly everybody being in the same place at the same time, because they won't be. So we move upon an average of the whole from the incarnate perspective, because what we're trying to do as energetic individuals whilst incarnate is work with lower frequency experiences and learn from those lower frequency experiences and evolve in the process. But in the process of doing that, we're trying to move the base frequency of which our physical vehicles exists up a frequency, so that we, in essence, don't need to come down to lower frequencies to progress. We can still incarnate, but at a higher frequency. Now, in and about the physical universe, there are many, many races of, or civilizations of incarnate entities, i.e. physical vehicles that are used by energetic entities that are of a higher frequency. Now, we can't perceive them or see them with our physical eyes, but they are nevertheless there. And if one was to, and Chris asked a question earlier in the week about a dream he had and how he would be able to perceive those entities or beings that he perceived in his dream. And I said to him, just defocus and empty your mind and accept that which comes in, and you'll start to perceive them. In some rare instances, you will see them as a complete overlay over your physical eyes, but most individuals see them as an image in the back of the head, as it were, sort of a perception rather than actual hard, shall I say, television-like image. So those individuals, those incarnate entities are there all the time, but they're of a higher frequency. And they're of a higher frequency because the individuals who've worked with that particular physical form factor have been successful in understanding the experiences that have been given towards them, how they've worked with that, and therefore the underlying reason for them experiencing that experience, and therefore they've moved onwards and upwards because they've worked with it, they've learned the lesson, and they've evolved in the process. As a result of it, and as a result of evolving in the process, they've ascended up the frequencies, and they've ascended up the frequencies and pulled the physical form factor with them, and they've done that individually and as a group. And that's why there are many, shall I say, civilizations in the physical universe who are nothing more than ourselves, physical vehicles there to allow the energetic side of ourselves to experience, learn and evolve from a more fundamentally low frequency perspective, but they're of a higher frequency because they've progressed higher. Now, some of those have done it based upon a collective basis rather than an individualised free will basis, and we are where we are right now because of our individualised free will. Now, in terms of ascension, another aspect of ascension is to do with the leaving of the physical body, the demise of the physical body. Now, when one has achieved a certain level of experience, who has learnt their lessons and has worked well with physicality, they don't need to stay here. So certain individuals will gain certain levels of, shall I say, illness or accident or dysfunction at certain points in their physicality, so that they can continue to experience what we may think as a harsh experience, but is nevertheless allowing them to accelerate their ascension process, so that they can ascend from the need to become an incarnate entity. Now, what I mean by that is that if you see individuals who are clearly shall I say, having a hard time of existence where they simply don't deserve it because of what they've been doing and how they've been doing it, then these individuals are, shall I say, washing up everything they need to do so that they don't need to incarnate. They're ascending past the need to incarnate. So people who are doing a lot of good in the world, they're bringing people together, they're solving people's problems, they're in some instances, if they're medical people, they're solving their difficult illnesses and virus-based conditions, but they die early of some other condition which is considered to be bad luck, or how can they die from that when they're working with that sort of thing? Then you start to realise that actually they're ascending past the need to incarnate, because they are sweeping up all their karmic attraction. They're moving, they're getting, shall I say, an accelerated level of experience whilst incarnate. They're living 2 or 3 lives concurrently whilst in the same body. And therefore they're ascending in the process as you see them. Forget the fact that they've died from cancer, or they've died from a lymphoma, or they've died from an accident. The fact that they've done what they've done in their short space on this earth is indicative of the fact that they are ascending, and they are no longer in a position where they need to descend to the physicality of incarnate existence of any form within the physical in a universe, to allow them to gain their evolutionary content. That's quite deep. Has anybody got any questions on that? No matter how simple.
Hi, guy. You again.
Hi, Chris.
Back to the reason. Do I know to perceive the entities around me?
Yes.
I was trying it last night, and I was trying it with my eyes open to visualize them sitting on the couch, and I couldn't do it. Do I have to meditate, close my eyes, and bring them to my mind's eye?
No. The problem is that if you create an attachment to the need to experience or see something, then you put a block up, basically. What one has to do is effectively just be in total acceptance and not worry if nothing is picked up. So eventually you get to the point where you can open yourself up, experiencing that which is there without any expectation attached to it. This is another part of attachment, when we expect something. So if you expect something, you create a bubble of expectation around you. So unless that which is part of that expectation is presented to you, you won't experience it. So what you have to do is to create this level of openness so that you are open to everything. It's a bit like being on a computer and going into your Word, into Microsoft Word, for instance, and then opening a document, and all you're seeing is the Word documents. It's only when you click on all files that you see the Word documents, you see the Excel documents, you see PDFs, you see JPEGs, you see PNG files, you see PowerPoint files, you see a plethora of other files. So when you put on a level of expectation, you limit that which you are going to perceive. So you have to really open the door totally and expect everything and nothing.
I think I got it.
Okay, thank you. Marnie's got a question. She said, I have a question about attachments to the old ways of thinking and being. Do you want to elaborate that a bit more, Marnie?
Well, you really did touch on it earlier, so I'm okay with that. I just have a question. I do have an additional question about what you've just spoken about regarding, I don't know, I feel like what you're saying about these people, noticing people that have a certain level of hard time and that they're trying to wash up everything so they no longer need to incarnate. How do we tell the difference between that and making our lives ourselves so difficult that we can't pay attention to our greater consciousness versus making it so easy for yourself that you are bored and you don't pay attention?
Yeah. If you look at the individuals who are in that position where they're washing up, they are inherently happy people. They will work and always see the positive aspect of something, irrespective of how bad it is. If you stand back and watch people, you will see who is always seeing the negative side of existence versus those who are always seeing the positive side of existence, or those who are in between. Now, in those who are probably experiencing bad things but are progressing, you will see that they almost belittle the negativity that we would consider that they're experiencing, and they're working with it. They're moving on with it. They are clearly interacting with it, but not letting it get them down. They're moving on, and they are doing the best they can with what they've got while they've got it. Does that make sense? Does that make you understand the difference there? Because it's very difficult to spot this. But if you look at people who are struggling, as a good example, a number of years ago I saw an article in a cycling magazine where there was somebody with a cancer of some sort, and they spent the last year of their life doing lots and lots of things that they wouldn't have done otherwise. And in doing so, they raised a lot of money for charity. So they were doing lots of positive stuff. They were experiencing that which they wanted to experience but hadn't previously done so, but now were thinking, I better do it. But on the other side of that, they were providing a service to others by raising money for a charity or charities which they would want to have supported. And that's the sort of individual you need to look for. And those are the people who are washing up and finishing their karmic cycle whilst they're incarnate, even though they're experiencing what would be tragic circumstances.
Guy?
Yes, Jane?
Anne's a prime example of this, isn't she?
Yes, she is. And when I look at really she experienced an awful lot of, shall I say, difficult times, almost from the point of getting a PhD back in 1991. And it was quite extraordinary. Everything I look at now tells me that she was one of those individuals who was doing exactly that. Clearly when you're close to somebody you don't always see that, and actually at some of those points in existence I wasn't where I am now, in a point where I can spot it, because you sort of interact with people, you're close with things, you're sort of working with physical existence, you're trying to sort of get by, pay the bills, pay the mortgage and all that sort of stuff. But absolutely, Anne was one of those individuals who was, from many different angles, sweeping up the last little bits of karma that she had. And when I logged into her a couple of days after I'm going to use the word ascended, because that's what she did. She moved onwards totally. She didn't hang around. She was whoosh. She was gone. There was no, although the actual demise of the physical form was quite, shall I say, from the physical aspect of observation, quite, shall I say, difficult for those around. When one is able to log into what's going on, she was totally and utterly moving away from the need to be here again. She'd experienced everything that she needed to experience, in the depth she needed to experience it, in the time frame that she needed to experience it as well. Now, I logged into her a couple of days afterwards, and I picked up that she was actually from a level that's extremely high frequentially. And I'm talking about up the 12th dimensional level, which took me quite by surprise. And I had to sit down and think and log into this to make sure I wasn't inventing it, because it was one of these things that you think to yourself, "Wait about this. This needs to have a level of ratification." So when I finally understood what was going on here, I found out that she'd actually had to, what's the word for it, provide levels of extension to come down the frequencies to work here to do what she needed to do. So she there's a child's toy called a slinky, where it's like a spring that walks downstairs. But if you imagine this spring walking downstairs and then leaving an aspect of itself down these stairs, that's what I picked up that her true energetic self had done. She'd come down the frequencies from the high frequency to do what she needed to do, finally, and therefore not need to incarnate again. But cutting to the short of it, Anne was a prime example of an individual who had got to the point where she was experiencing everything really, very, very rapidly, and therefore didn't need to, doesn't need to incarnate again as a result of that. And I've seen other people as well. When I cast my mind back to the past, I've seen people who've been incarnate for, only into their teens, for instance, and they've moved onwards, and they've gone back into the energetic and not needed to incarnate, because they've experienced so much in those short years. And they've been so happy when experiencing those supposedly detrimental and difficult times that you see that they've overcome this problem of being sucked into and subsumed by the lower frequency aspect of that which they're experiencing. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on Ascension? Matthias, do you have any questions, or Jenny?
No questions. It's just a lot is happening when you're talking. It's in my perspective, it's how much I allow myself to feel other things, or to just allow myself to sense them. It's another way of, I don't know, experiencing, and also of the other people, they need to experience something. When you were talking to the case of experiencing or just being the watcher, and if you can give somebody something to experience, it's totally different, and it's the effect is much bigger.
Thank you. Any comments, Jenny, at all?
No, there's a lot of stuff there. I'm got loads of little things going through my head at the moment.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let them keep moving. John, any questions? No. Okay. So Meryl's in the background, so within Alan's area. Do you have any questions on this, Meryl, or any thought processes or anything you want to share?
No, only that I understand what you're talking about, Anne, how some of us can pick up with other ones that we have lost that have been very close to us, and understanding that they have to move on too, just as we do, even though it's in another higher frequency. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, John, did you have any questions on that, John, at all? Or are you happy with what's been questioned?
No. One of the things that came up while you were talking is, a lot of times people, for instance, who are good at problem solving, will always have problems in their life. So it's kind of like working on can you learn to have a different reason for being rather than always having to solve problems? You know, and so sometimes people create a lot of drama in their lives because their whole reason or energy for being is to be a problem solver. And if they don't have problems to solve, they don't feel like they're doing anything, you know. And that's just another aspect of something.
Yeah, yes. If I link that to ascension, I would say those who are always problem solving are always problem solving because they're not actually solving the problem. Or they're not taking on board that which they've solved, and the shall I say the problem that they're trying to solve, they haven't understood it, even though they've solved it, and therefore
exactly.
Yeah. So and that's what happens. So they're in this loop, as it were, and there's a function of karma called downward spiraling karma, which looks at how individuals keep getting the same lesson over and over again, and if they get it wrong over and over again, they keep getting sucked down further and further into the frequencies. So you find that people are always problem solving, unless that they are fully understanding why they're always solving problems of various different types. They'll start to descend the frequencies as a result of that, and so therefore so as a result of that they descend rather than ascend. Clearly, there's an alternative to that, which is called upward spiraling karma, which is an ascension function where you keep getting things right all of the time and you spiral upwards. But that's what we aspire to, basically, which is the ability to instantaneously recognise that which we're being presented with, work with it in a totally and utterly correct manner, even though we're incarnate, and as a result of that, we always take the higher road frequentially, and as we do that, we keep taking the higher road with the next level of challenges, and we always move onwards and upwards. And the more we get it right, the more we get it right. As a result of that, we spiral upwards in a similar way to what we can do when we spiral downwards. So that's another aspect of karma.
Sorry, Guy. May I ask a question?
Yep. Thanks, Jenny.
When you were saying there about people who are problem solvers,
Yeah.
that it's like you show me an agony aunt whose life isn't in absolute turmoil. Is it not a reflection of themselves? In other words, that the reason they keep needing to solve problems is because they don't solve their own problems?
Sometimes, yes, and sometimes they're there to be a catalyst for others. If they're in a prominence place, for instance, they will be a catalyst for others to break out of this downward spiral and start into a neutral, shall I say, a holding pattern, and then try to move upwards. Whereas sometimes, you're exactly right, they will subliminally or subconsciously feed upon the downward spiral of another and downward spiral themselves.
It just occurred to me. Sometimes I'll find someone will ask me a question, and I'll find as I'm answering their question, I suddenly realise, well, it's exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. And I'm going to digress slightly now. This is why we've got soap operas on TV. There's an awful lot of soap operas on TV, like from those international individuals, things like Coronation Street and Emmerdale Farm and others, and there's no doubt there's things like the Fresh Prince of LA and also Bel Air and Friends and other things from the American side of things. They're all soap operas that all offer different levels of example of how to deal with different, shall I say, experiences. But it's a broadcast thing. It's a holistic thing. It's a group thing rather than an individual thing. Even though, for instance, you have an agony aunt in a periodical, a magazine, doing the same thing, it's the same sort of thing. But the thing is, the actors in the soap opera can also get sucked into that which they're doing. So although they're just actors playing out a play based upon a series of scripts, if they're not careful, they can start to be the script.
Well, it's a bit like nowadays, isn't it? With our newspapers or watching the nightly news. The more you watch it, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's always filled with gloom and doom. There's nothing nice they ever report about in the news.
No.
And surely the more you listen to it or the more you read a magazine, then the more you are going to start thinking like that.
Yeah, unless you disassociate yourself from it and you accept it for what it is, which is somebody else's, shall I say, descension reality.
Well, I have to say, what I read sometimes and what I hear sometimes, it absolutely appalls me. And I was, what was we watching? Something the other afternoon, and normally I can't stand adverts anymore. That they're literally, the ones on the afternoon telly are just appalling. The charities begging you for money by making you feel guilty. 9 times out of 10, that's what they are now.
Yeah.
So I tend to mute them. But then there are other adverts, and when I start listening to them, I just think, oh my God, do people not realise what they're actually trying to do to them? Then it's not a good message.
No, and this is what, and this is from a holistic perspective. This is where small groups of individuals can, in essence, use levels of karma to affect other people's karma and drag them down, even though they're potentially doing good work, which is a different aspect, if you want to call that, of how the karmic function works, because it's all about manipulating the collective mentality through methods of subliminal programming, as it were, which is a completely different subject matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
no, I don't buy a newspaper. Occasionally, if something catches my eye, I'll have a look at it. Occasionally, I'll watch the news just so I can catch the weather. But 9 times out of 10, I'll just stay away from it now.
Just realised I've not plugged my computer in to get some power, so I need to do that quickly, otherwise it'll die. Okay. So, does anybody else have any other questions on this subject, or because we've moved into questions and answers quite seamlessly there. Okay. What I'd like to do now then is go into the end of the meeting meditation. With a view to connecting us to divine love, and I think that's quite appropriate right now, specifically from the perspective of where we are, economically, frequentially, emotionally, etc. So what I'd like you to try and do now, if you can all position yourselves in your chairs, your seats, in a straight backed chair if you've got one. If you haven't, then try and sit up straight, and if you can, put the palm of your hands uppermost and your hands on the area of the thigh literally between the knee and the area where the thigh joins the lower body, and just close the eyes and just shut out the rest of the physical environment around you. Okay. Now, in the past, we've used the visualization process of moving into a white room, and we're going to use the same visualization process because we're starting to get used to that now. Now, I'm going to be sitting on a chair, okay, and there's a chair to the left and to the right of me, and rather than create a circle, okay, we'll use our intention to create the circle, but I want each of you to take either my left hand or my right hand. So as you move so I'm in this white room right now. This is the space that we're going to use to connect each other to each other. Now when you connect to me by taking my right hand or my left hand, when all of you have done this, you will all be connected to each other through me. So we'll all be interconnected, we'll all be in oneness, we'll be in meta concert. So there are Jenny, Matthias, Chris, John, Marnie, Jane, Meryl, Alan and myself all together, which gives us 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people together, which is 9 times 9. So we've got 9 times 9 individuals together. I think it's about 81. Working together to create the energies associated with pulling in divine love. Now we get divine love from the source. The source in our particular multiverse pervades it. It's everywhere. Okay, it's in and about everything. It's in between the lines, if you want to call the lines. Outside of that is part of itself and part of that which is created to allow that which it created to experience, learn and evolve to be part of itself in oneness. So as you walk in, either take my right hand with your left hand or my left hand with your right hand. And I can feel Marnie's in the room, Jenny, Chris, John, Alan, Meryl, Matthias, Jane. Yeah, we're all there. Feel the different energies. So just concentrate on that connection between yourselves and me and the interconnectivity that we have together as a result of being in the same space at the same time. Those individuals who are working with this as a recording can also enter into this and be part of the same space, because you're working with it at a different time frame, different event space. It's immaterial. You become part of the same effect, the same space, by having your intention to work with the same space. So if it's 2 weeks time, 2 months time, or 2 years time, or 20 years time, it doesn't matter. So what we're going to do now is to move into a space that is at the centre of the physical universe. You can call it a ground zero if you want to, or a datum point. At the centre of a sphere. The physical universe isn't a sphere, but it's a good enough description for what we need to work with. Just move it with me into the centre of this sphere. This gives us a common datum point within the physicality or the physical frequencies associated with the physical universe. Now I want you to all imagine that you turn around and behind you there's a door. It's a lift door. So I want you to walk hand in hand with myself. We both stand up together, or we all stand up together, and we walk through this lift door, hand in hand still maintaining the contact, still maintaining the meta concert, and we go into the lift. And we're all there. We turn around and the door closes. And we're at the lift in the centre of the physical universe. So we push a button. On this button there's the number 100. We go to level 100. from my experience, that's the level where the source entity starts to pay attention to who's there. So we're going to push the button, number 100, and we're going to rise through the frequencies, together with me, to the 100th frequency level within the multiverse the source entity created to accelerate its own evolutionary content. So we get to level 100, and when we get there, the lift has a bell which pings, so it says that we've actually reached there. And the door opens, and we move out into the space that's there. We can walk out, we can fly out, we can swim out, we can crawl out, but wherever we are, we move out of this lift, still hand in hand with myself, and we just move outside enough to be in the centre point of that space represented by the 100th frequency level. And from here, we just ask the source to project its totality in a focused state onto the area that we are. We ask it to give us its divine love. Its divine love is a gift it gives to us, where we recognise that we are one with the source and the source is one with us and we are the source. And we're also part of the multiverse that is created. So everything is interconnected. And because we're interconnected with everything and everyone, including the source, then we love everything and everyone and the source. Because it's all part of us and we're all part of it. So just stay there for a moment and let this white light engulf you totally. Just let whatever you experience happen, and don't resist anything that comes to you. Don't resist any imagery, any emotional content, any audible content, clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient, any knowledge that's there, cosmic knowledge, clairsentient knowledge. Just let it all come, and let the love and the joy of you being in a position as an incarnate entity who has projected its incarnate consciousness up to this level, and is able to connect with the source in the most fundamentally and divine way as a result. So just bask in this love. It absorbs you, it comes around you like a white fog. Notice how your physical form reacts. Do you get tingling or emotional content, or hot or cold? Do you see any images, or do you get any pressure points around the skull or the third eye area? This is just physical responses to tell you that you're actually experiencing that which you are. But just absorb and be part of that divine love. Be part of it. Let it be part of you, and be in joy. notice that any hardships you had before have disappeared. There's no concern anymore, there's no distress anymore, there's no worries anymore. There's just delight and joyfulness as a result of being encapsulated by the divine love of the Source. Let the Source, this divine love, permeate your being, your incarnate being. Offer no resistance, just let that which is coming through you come through you in an unrestricted and free-flowing way. You are one with the divine love is one with you, you are the divine love. Allow it to permeate through you and allow you to be part of it in the same way. Okay, now let's move back into that lift you experienced. Don't forget what you've experienced. Pull something with you. Pull a cloud, for instance, of this divine love with you and hold it close to your heart and bring it with you as you move back into that lift. Remember to bring all of yourself back. Ask yourself to bring all of yourself back into the lift so you don't leave any aspect of yourself behind. It's a very nice place to be, but we have physical work to do. All of us have just got back into the lift. We turn around and the door closes and we push the button 0 and we drop down the frequencies to the 0 level, which is the physical level. Lift descends, it's gone past the 60th level, 50th, 40th, 30th, 20th, 10th, the 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd and the 1st. Each of us has got a piece of that divine love with us and we clutch it towards our heart so that it's absorbed within our very incarnate being and our energetic being as a result. The lift stops and the door opens and we move back out again, still hand in hand, never lost the hand in hand, back into that white room. So now we let go of my left hand or my right hand, depending on which one you've taken, and move out of the room through the door, or dematerialise out of the room back to where you started from. When you're back to your starting place, very slowly open your eyes and come back into the room where your chair that you're using to do this meditation on resides. Okay, good. That was from my perspective, that was really good because I felt every one of you there, and I really felt the connectivity between us all. Has anybody else got any observations they felt whilst in that guided meditation, that process?
That was lovely, I think.
Thank you, John. You experienced the divine love, undoubtedly.
Yes, I experienced great peace there.
Thank you. That's a good way of saying it, complete peace. Anybody else?
It was very nice, and also how the white room changed when we came down. It was full with this great feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Matthias. Okay.
It was overwhelming for me. I also felt a little nauseous. I don't know. And my hands are completely drenched in sweat.
Oh, good. So you have some physical proof as well.
Yeah, a little shaken. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. That's because the reason why you've got that level of physical response is because you've not been taken that level before, which is why I indicated that people need to take my hands on the left hand and the right hand there, which is good, actually. Those who've been on the workshop will have had a bit more experience, like Matthias and Chris and Jane and Meryl and Alan, of course. I've been on the level 1, level 2 workshops where they've been up to that level. But yeah, exactly. Good.
We'll all get to be part of that workshop soon.
Absolutely, yes. Well done. Looking forward to seeing you and working with you there.
Me too, thank you.
Thank you. Whoops, John's got unplugged. Let's see if I can pull John back in again. Okay. Right, Alan, how did you feel with that? Quiet.
Right here.
Quiet. He's just come back.
I came back. I couldn't find the mute button. Thank you so much. I can feel and hear the love in everybody's voice who's speaking to you. And what I want to say is thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Meryl, how are you?
Oh, very good, Guy. Thank you very much. Very nice. Nice warm feeling, seeing beautiful fuchsia colors and feeling very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jane?
Yeah, just very relaxed and peaceful.
Fantastic. And Jenny?
Warm and tingly, thank you.
Warm and tingly. That's another good way of putting it. Excellent. Okay. Well, that's it for this particular month. Thank you all for participating. It's been fantastic. Again, thank you for your support over the past month. It's been wonderful to hear the words of support and the words of encouragement. Clearly, the physical aspect of me has a different perspective on things than the energetic aspect of myself, which I'm working with. We all have to work with something in the physical. That's why we're here. So I take that on board as well. Even though some of us end up being teachers, the teachers are always taught by that which they find themselves experiencing and part of. So it's all a big school at the end of the day. Okay, so fantastic. Thank you very much for all participating. Don't forget, if you have any questions outside of this environment, you can always send me an email. We can work with it. I shall put this recording on the website over the next couple of days, and we'll send it out as an email as well. It'll be, of course, a QuickTime MOV file, I might put both a QuickTime file and an MAR file on so that people can follow it from the link on the website for those who've got Windows Media Player functionality only. But in essence, it'll be up and running for people to log into for reference later. And I guess the next one is going to be again on the 4th Saturday of the month in February. So I look forward to meeting up with you and working with you then. So, unless there's any more questions, I'll wish you good afternoon, good morning, or good night.
Thank you, Guy. See you later.
Thank you. Thank you, John. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, John. Thank you, Marnie. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Meryl. Thank you, Matchas. And thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?